Welcome to Nasdaq Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, global markets reporter at Nasdaq. Joining us for this segment, we have Michael Romer, a partner with Romer DeBass, to discuss why home buyers are finding themselves competing with pension funds and investment firms. Michael, it's great to see you again. Welcome back to Trade Talks.
Thanks again, Jill, for having me. Good to see you.
You got it. Same here. And only 47% of millennials own a home. What is the overarching obstacle?
Affording it. Yeah, that's the problem that the millennials, the younger generation, are having. Yeah, how do they actually enter this home market? How do they buy a home? And when they're competing with the likes of investment companies, hedge funds, pension funds, how do they do that when the housing market, the prices continue to go up? How does the younger generation actually compete with it? And that's the problem that we're seeing at the national level.
And how did COVID destabilize the commercial market, and how is that impacting the residential market and affordability?
Well, it's been really interesting to watch this play out as we're still dealing with COVID. So now here we are a year and a half in. But what you saw is a lot of large-scale real estate investors seeing a real opportunity in the residential market because they had a situation on the commercial side where folks weren't able to pay their rent. We're talking about small businesses weren't able to pay the rent. So your larger landlords were looking at this and saying, wait a minute, well, where's the best investment? And they've really focused their attention on the residential market throughout the country, which has been really wild to see. In the last 6 months alone, you're looking at, according to most indicators, about $87 billion worth of homes being purchased by Wall Street effectively.
So one of the companies, for example, is Blackstone, right? Recently rejoined a powerful roster with their $6 billion acquisition of Home Partners of America, which owns more than 17,000 homes made available to tenants through a rent-to-buy structure. What does that mean? And is that good or bad for first-time home buyers, is this particular structure?
Well, Blackstone has been very active in purchasing properties throughout the country. They've become effectively the largest private landlord throughout the country. And with this most recent acquisition, focused more on purchasing homes to then rent them out. It was a very interesting acquisition, but it really ties into that initial point where you had this different viewpoint in terms of what to invest in, investing in residential as opposed to commercial. But the rent to buy setup, the idea there is, well, let's effectively buy homes and allow people to rent them with the intent to eventually buy them. Now, I think there are pros and cons to that. I do think it creates opportunities for those who might not be able to purchase a home, for those who aren't liquid enough that they could rent and then purchase it later. But ultimately what happens is it creates this other issue where it drives the rental market up. So effectively then you have this situation where rents continue to increase. And you have situations across the country where, these new homes that are being built for rental purposes, there are many numbers out there, as high as 20% in terms of rental increases in order to rent out these homes. So in some ways it's good in theory, but in practice, it ends up adding to the problem.
So what are first-time home buyers and those priced out of the market supposed to do? And if they want to achieve the American dream and have home ownership, if it's unattainable, it's unattainable. I mean, where do we find the balance here?
Well, I would never say it's unattainable. I think first-time home buyers really have to educate themselves and to work with local real estate agents in their communities and also to work with experienced mortgage professionals because there are many government programs geared towards first-time home buyers where they could actually get financing, in some cases all the way up to 95% plus in order to buy that first dream home. So they do have options, but it is very difficult. How does the little guy compete with the Blackstones of the world? But it doesn't mean it's impossible. It just means they have to be very proactive and work with the right people, the right real estate agent, the right lender, get informed and act quickly. And if you go in and you make an offer with a commitment letter in hand or a pre-approval letter in hand from a lender that you're a valid buyer ready to go, you can beat the big guys to the punch.
Yeah. And that's great advice, even outside of this conversation that we're having just in general in buying a home. And I can tell you in this particular market, having just bought a home this year myself, the luxury of having time doesn't exist there either. I mean, you have so many people competitively bidding on homes with certainly more than, 5% down, that's for sure. And with everything that you said in hand, but I just think it's, you have Blackstone and other companies buying up homes. And then you also just have such a competitive market. It really is the perfect confluence of challenge, for challenges for a first-time home buyer.
Very true. You have to be prepared and act quickly because we do have a continuation of this record low inventory problem. And then when you add to that the larger investors coming in to chip away at that inventory, what does it leave? What does it leave for the rest of us who are trying to buy homes? So you really have to be proactive, educate yourselves, work with the right people because it's not impossible. The opportunity still exists.
All right. Great advice as always. Michael, thanks for joining us on Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.
Thank you, Jill.